Hey, what's going on, guys? Double testing, audio's okay? What's up, Rosa? First honors. Hey, what's going on? Yep, well, we're just now starting. Haven't started yet. Just waiting. Give everybody a minute to jump in. Audio's good. Okay, perfect. Good. Oh, don't worry. We were taking the time to handle some stuff, Ivan, to make sure everything was A-okay. All right. We will go ahead and kick this off. So Assault couldn't make it this time. He will probably make it next time. He'll let me know if he can't. But for now, it's going to be Lawn Darts and myself. For those of you guys who don't know, Lawn Darts makes incredible YouTube videos. If you can go check him out, definitely go check him out. Show him some love. Lawn, if you want to introduce yourself, that would be awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Panic. Once again, thanks for inviting me on your Squadcast. Always a pleasure to be here and to hear your thoughts on a game that's close to my heart, Squad. I've been playing Squad since 2017, back half of 2017. Got a little over 10,000 hours in the game. It's pretty much the only game I play. And I also, as you mentioned, make Squad-centric content on my YouTube channel.
Perfect, guys. Definitely go show him some love. I'll post this stuff throughout, and if we do if we take a little break in between, he's given me the pleasure of playing some of his videos in between. So if we do take any AFK breaks, I'll definitely show some of his stuff on there. So if you guys read the title, the topic of today is going to be maps, layers, and game modes. I think what we wanted to start off with would be, what was it? We said game modes, right? What's up, Telmon? What's up,
Yeah.
everybody?
Well, it might be worth laying down a few definitions in case someone's listening who's not familiar with the difference between maps, layers, and game modes. Do you
Sure.
mind
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
have a crack at it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, sweet. So maps, those are the terrain, the actual landscape geometries, and other decorative assets like trees, rocks, burnt out or abandoned vehicles, building structures, and the such. So that's basically what the map is. Example of a map would be Samari or Gorodok or Yehorivka. There's about 20, 23 maps currently in Squad, of which we've got them rolling in the backdrop. Layers essentially are variations of gameplay parameters that are put in or layered on, really, in lay terms, on top of those maps. They include things like which factions are fighting each other, the number and composition of available vehicles for each faction, different lighting conditions, different weather conditions, different visual effects like dust storms, and that sort of stuff varies from layer to layer. Now, the other thing that varies from layer to layer, and is usually what people really actually mean when they're referring to layers in conversation, is game mode specific functionality, like where spawn points are, where capture points are, or objective points. Um, and so, in terms of how many of sort of those layers are in Squad, in the SDK, there's north of 100 of them because you've got about 20 maps, and there's slightly more on average than 5 layers. But the majority of that comprises the game modes, and of which there's 7. So I'll hand it back to you.
So after that explanation, there's a few things we wanted to touch on. Um, I think the first for me is, um, sorry, one second, I was responding about. Um, the first thing for me was the game modes, because it's such an important thing to speak about. Right now, there are, is it 5 different game modes in Squad, or there's
There's
AAS
7.
7?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
yeah. So you've got 4 capture the point game modes, advanced and secure, random advanced and secure, invasion, and skirmish, and then 3 objective based ones, which is territory control, destruction, and insurgency.
right. Hell, I forgot skirmish was even a thing because nobody plays it. So a lot of these are never touched. And we were just talking about this, how they're not touched because there is no information on them, right? There's nothing. And a great example, because we just dealt with this yesterday on the server, was territory control. A lot of new players have no idea how to play it. And there's this like what's up, Olson? There's this there's negative connotation or understanding of uh, or I guess like a negative outlook towards territory control because people don't understand it, right? Um, exactly, Atomic. You were there for that, and the only reason that it's like that is because people don't know. I think if there was a way, it is really fun. I think it's one of the most fun game modes. It's super different. It's super dynamic. It can play any which way because of the way that the hexes work. Um, yeah, even I think the least played one Berserk is Destruction. I don't think anybody runs Destruction in rotation, but so I think through some, I don't even know if it's necessarily a tutorial, but through some way of learning, right? We have to somehow teach people how to play these different game modes because there's so much content that lies within Squad that's for a lot of people has never been touched. And I think it would be a good um, I don't know, it would be a good addition. I was trying not to I was trying to think of something other than addition because it's already in the game, but it would be a good addition to current rotations and make the game a lot more fresh for people having these different game modes. Um, I played Destruction a few times, Ivan. Um, but having these different game modes in rotation would make for a lot more fun for people and would make Squad for the veteran players a lot less stale. Um, Instead of running like just RAS and I know for a lot of us we don't like RAS, or we it's like one of our favorite our least favorite game modes. Um, no, the tutorial itself is not enough, Telemon, especially for or even just by the base alone. But um, there's got to be a way for us to teach these people how to play. And when I say these people, I mean these new guys, um, because it not only benefits them, but it benefits us as well. Teaching them how to play either I think Insurgency is one of the easiest ones to teach people. I think that would be a really good starting point. TC is a little more complex. Um, Destruction is going to be its own beast, but I'd love to see that played as well. And like I said, I think it would remove an amount of uh, I think it would just refresh all of us, right? There's too much content that lies within Squad that's not touched to not pull it forward and have it put into different, not just one specific server, but any server should be able to have it in rotation, and people should be able to understand it. Um, and I think
I
that
think
go ahead.
therein lies the problem, right? Like where if these were game modes that were popular, then the server admins would be putting on their servers. But currently, what tends to happen is, if there's a territory control only server out there, it's no one's playing it. And if you're running like a mixed mode server, there's always a danger if late in the evening when you might risk a depop if territory control rolls up. And it really is for the reason that was pointed out in chat. The broader player base just doesn't really understand it and then doesn't like it, I think, as a result.
It's true, and I'm still brainstorming, like thinking, like what other ways could we go about teaching people other than maybe I could do like a uh not like a training camp. What are they called? Like the ops things do. What are those things called? Like the ops tutorials, like one of those, something similar to that, and teach people each take a moment to teach people the undiscovered. I'm going to call them the undiscovered game modes, right? Show people how to play Insurgency, then go to the next one another week and show people how to play Destruction and show people how to play Territory Control. Territory Control is going to be a one I'm going to have to think about when when it comes to explaining things. So it's true, Boa PR had no RAS. We're going to talk about that too because I have an idea for mixing the two. But Assault, are you on today? Did you want to here? I'm gonna DM him while we're talking, but um
I'm of the feeling that perhaps you could revitalize or repackage or remarket some of the objective-based game modes that no one seems to like territory control, insurgency, or destruction. But it might be better just to come up with something more fresh. That being said, there's a few mods out there that have different game modes, and but some of them definitely have their merits. There's the dynamic direction mod. That's essentially a game mode mod, but I think it ultimately suffers from lack of variety. The thing I like when I'm playing squad is the variety. I don't like the same game mode. It's like no one wants the same map, the same player, round after round. So the variety is good, but at the same time, you need 90 plus other people in the server with you willing to play to make it a match. And when things like insurgency or territory control roll up, they're normally steamrolls because the side that has the 5 or 6 guys that have a better understanding of the game mode pretty much just walk over the other team. Not because they're better shooters, just because they know where they need to be and when they need to be there.
And that's the thing that I've been trying to change a lot lately. Is anytime that we do, like, usually I'll do it right after seeding, right? Like, so we seed, then I'll go to Al-Basra Insurgency because I know it's right after seed. It's not going to cause a huge issue. But what I actually take the time to do is when the match starts, if I'm on the attackers, I go, hey, does anybody not know how this works? And then I'll proceed to explain it to those who don't know how everything works, what we're looking for, what the objective is, what we get for blowing up the caches. Um, and going on from there. And then on the other side, I'll hop on an admin broadcast and I will broadcast, insurgents, it is imperative that you protect your caches. If we blow your caches up, we get 100 tickets. Make sure you guys understand, or not make sure you guys understand, but I'll do like a short explanation of how buddy rallies work, so people are familiar with buddy rallies because they're so powerful and not enough people use them and not enough people know about them. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, the insurgents as a faction, they have a really good amount of utilization that you of assets that you can use only for the insurgents. One of them being the insurgents get 2 habs per fob. I've been seeing this a lot lately where insurgent squad leaders will only put down 1 hab. You can have 2 habs per fob, but the most important and the most powerful thing for an insurgent squad leader is the buddy rally system. That is, if you are dead as an insurgent squad leader, you can pull up your map, you can left click a friendly's rally point, and you can click this button that says deploy rally point, and you can put your rally point on top of theirs. It doesn't cost you any ammo. You can just straight up click the button, deploy your rally on a friendlies, and then by doing, and to explain it a little bit, by doing this, what this gives you is the power of fast movement. So if you strategically have groups through, like, we're going to use Al Basra as an example. If you strategically have groups throughout the city of Al Basra on insurgency, right? You can shuttle each other across the map by just playing in your position, dying, and then moving your rally point on top of it, like buddy rallying on top of someone else's. Then you can have 2, 3, 4 squads all buddy rallied on top of each other, spawn in a massive location where the vast majority of US or like invading forces are. Um, and then vice versa. You can go back, you can shift back and forth all across the map super fast with these buddy rallies, and they're not used enough. They're so powerful.
Well, I think, given that for INS, the other thing about their 2 habs they get per fob is they're dirt cheap, right? They cost like 100 construction. You essentially can put them down like they look, right? They're so disposable, I think that, and perhaps this is more broadly for other, conventional factions, that most squad leaders just view habs and fobs as disposable items that they drop, almost like they should be viewing their actual rallies. Often when I'm playing in vanilla, you take a look at the map and you can sort of judge the competency of your leadership sometimes by just counting the rallies. And it's more often than not, you'll look and you'll see maybe 1 or maybe even 0 rallies down. And people are complaining about, not having a hab or something. Well, it's like just underutilization of really the first thing that should be drilled into every squad leader is put your rally down and go rearm it. And then where you're going to put your next rally is just, that's your primary function really as a squad leader, is to make sure that you've got somewhere for your troops to spawn in at. And it's more than just putting down radios. And unlike fob radios, your rally doesn't cost anything if it gets burned. It doesn't cost the team 20 tickets.
Yeah, it's I this is why I always tell people too why I love the insurgent faction. I'm still thinking about it too. Is like they have so much unique stuff that nobody else gets. like I call it the Black Pearl, like the AAMTLB and like the truck, the AA truck, the bikes. Like there's just so much stuff that they get that nobody else gets. But there's something special about. I think this is the other thing too. Uh, Lawn darts is one of the things that really gets me about the game mode insurgency. I'm sorry for going off track because I'm still thinking about it, but um, it is so dynamic when you play the game mode insurgency because the cache can literally be anywhere. You can't use squad lanes. You can't use any sort of like preset strategy because it's just waiting for intelligence, acquiring intelligence, finding the caches, and then even then, when the dagger is shown up on the map where the cache is at, it's not right on the dagger. It's within like 200 meters of that. I think it's like 150 meters, 200 meters of that dagger. It's so unique. It's so fun to me. Um,
It's more teamwork orientated too, and I think that's, one of its strengths, but also perhaps one of its weaknesses, insofar as that typically there's what, 2 active caches at any time, and
Correct.
often the defending team will fail horribly if they're all just spawning at one of them, and then there's potential, if they're building a dare I say super fob nearby, that those guys who are fortifying around that early cache might not see much enemy action, and the enemy figures out that they'll just go to all the other caches because the other team's not defending it. Now you could say, well, the other team then deserves getting steamrolled, but those aren't exactly enjoyable matches when that happens, for either side. Um, so there, it comes down to having, I suppose, a base level of understanding of and teamwork from the defending team, so that their forces are somewhat evenly spread between the two caches. And then on the attacking team, it's a good game mode because it requires more cooperation. You need is it the squad leader with their special grenade that takes out the cache, or I
the
think perhaps
incendiary.
can engineers also blow them up?
Yes, C4 will also blow up the cache.
Yeah, so it requires you therefore to sort of shepherd um, certain kits, make sure that they're safe passage means you generally have to secure the area around it if it's actually being defended. You can't just have one guy sort of ninja in there if it's being defended. Unfortunately, though, that's what happens a lot when people don't understand the game mode. They don't defend the new cache. One engineer drives over to the thing, blows it up, does that another 2 times for the next 2 ones that spawn. That's GG.
We had one of the best games of Al Basra I ever played on the Squad Ops mixed mode servers. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. It was sometime in the past 2 days. And if anybody in chat was there, let me know because it the first cache was on Alcora. If anybody doesn't know, or if anybody doesn't know the caps on Alcora, that's like the small town west of the city of Al Basra. That's like on the edge of the river where the two connect, with all the bridges around it. And it was an absolute like full blown firefight. And I could go back and probably clip it from the VOD too. It was a full blown firefight for like 20 minutes to get into this cap zone. And it was even like right off the bat, like there were bikes, the suicide bikes were like out in the desert hunting. One drove up to my truck. We were playing as the British, and I was attacking. One drove up to my truck. I jumped out, shot the driver of the bike, but it still went off like under my truck, blew the wheels out. Somehow the truck survived. We managed to get like a fob down. We started working into the city, the little town of Alcora. And that fight lasted like 20-25 minutes. And then the second cache that we had to go to was like smack dab center of the four-way intersection where all the double lane roads meet inside of Al Basra. And again, it was just another huge, like constant action, constant noise. There was no downtime. Everybody that was in the match was in this fight. And I had so much fun playing. I think that was like probably one of my most. I didn't even get a bunch of kills. It was just the pure. I love the chaos that happens in squad when it like really picks up, and that pure chaos was so much fun to me with all the like the different comms of people like screaming that stuff. Um, are screaming out different like call outs, the vehicles that were like working together out on the west side, like trying to get in to help us while there were all these suicide bikes and the cars and stuff flying out. It was just way too much fun, dude. Way too much fun. And it's such a shame, but I actually have a lot of hope, especially now that the stream's starting to pick up, that I can take the time to teach people how to play Insurgency, and maybe one game mode at a time, we could start to really get people into playing these. And whether or not it happens on every server, we can at least get it to happen within squad ops and on the squad ops servers. And get that, maybe that's a seed that we can plant, and it'll grow and it'll become more popular throughout the community. But I really would love to see, even if it's just one at a time, just like one at a time, uh, these game modes being played more often. Because, like I said, I think for a lot of us I see a lot of veteran players, a lot of my old teammates, even a lot of my old opponents in chat right now, and I'm sure for a lot of us it would be a really big breath of fresh air to still play the game we love, but also get to play like one of the untapped game modes that are just too much fun.
It is. It's a great game mode, but I think the good experiences I've had playing it normally happen when both teams have a reasonable understanding of the actual game mode, which which is rare. And there's not that many insurgency layers. Some of them also can be a little buggy. So if you're trying to sort of set up a server and focus on say insurgency, you don't really have much variety to offer the player base. You're going after a niche, you might not get your server popped, and the temptation is there just to make it AAS or RAS or invasion, which is when you look at the server browser, the overwhelming majority of game modes that are actually populated at any given point in time.
That's true. I would like to see them in rotation, not necessarily be played 24/7, right? I don't want to see a 24/7 insurgency server or anything like that. I don't think it'll ever come to that, but I would like to see that mixture of variety, especially like going back to like the mixed mode server, right? Seeing that level of variety where it could potentially be like AAS, where it goes like Cora AAS V2, Narva RAS, not V5. Um V5 is the flooded layer.
Oh, you don't like Kevin Costner's Waterworld?
No, I don't. I really don't. I think that's the only thing in Squad. That's the only like layer in Squad that I truly cannot stand is the fucking the water map, dude. Everyone here that's
I
played
don't
it
know,
knows
man. I
exactly what I'm
mean,
talking about.
it's an example of squad layer, with a huge amount of potential, but yeah, fair to say that it's universally hated in the way
It's
that
gr-
it's currently implemented.
it's great on paper, poorly executed. I think it would be so much different if, even if I don't even care too much
Don't
about this.
panic. My
Oh my god.
frags are organic.
Hold on one second. I gotta disconnect that. It's not the layer, Stinger. It's not the layer. It's I think if they would just either lower the water or let abs be placed within the water, it would be a hell of a lot different. I wouldn't care too much about having no stamina if I just knew that I could place a fob where I wanted to, or like even a hab. If I could just place a hab where I wanted to place it, or at least had more more variety than like say on top of a shed or like inside of a building, like on the second floor, trying to get people to like weasel their way out. You know what I mean? Like it, it's just like Lon said, like it's a really, really, really good idea. It's just gonna take it's gonna take time, I guess, for them to like figure it out. I don't know what it is on like the like coding or programming level, but getting it to like work out. Maybe if we could like lower the water by like 6 feet, that'd be pretty sick. Or just let us place habs in the water, and I would be totally fine with it. What's up,
I
Baldric?
feel like it's similar to helicopters when they came in, amphibious vehicles. I mean, look at, say, Al Basra, and you've now got ribs that can use the
Love
waterway
those
there.
bows.
Completely changes a lot of layers and how they're set up. Classic sort of one would be the invasion layers where, they end up on the island just northeast of INS Main as the last point. Now you've got amphibious vehicles, not just ribs, but the heavier stuff crossing to the east, being able to drop infantry onto said island. Helicopters did a similar thing. Really changed a lot of the dimensions of the gameplay, and I'm not entirely sure that it's always well thought out for the particular layer when you're bolting that sort of stuff onto it after the fact. It really changes a lot of natural choke points that were probably put into the terrain by the level designer, that now you can just fly a helicopter over or cruise around in a boat.
I even have you played the version of Kokan that has the boat?
Is there? Yes, I have. Yes, it's
Yeah,
just a
I
gun
think it's
run at
the
the start into oblivion.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I think it's the Chinese layer has the boat. It's a single boat. I love the addition of the boats. It I'm smiling thinking about it, like, just the stuff you can do is, like, so much fun, and, like, being able to, like, play the coast, like, on Abaza, what Lon was just talking about, like, on Abaza, being able to either cut up the middle, at the start on, like, Invasion, or straight up take the coast towards, like, the oil refinery, being able to cross the rivers with the amphibious vehicles. There's, like, such another, like, added dynamic to vehicle play and to just overall troop movement based off of those additions alone, that makes some of these maps a lot more fun now, a lot more fun. Even on like Narva, Narva's another good one too. Like these, instead of the vehicles having to cross these bridges as like the Russians, they can now not necessarily risk as much with the like binding of the bridges, or like in quotations like main camping and stuff like that, because they can just cut like 90% of their vehicles can just cut right across the water, and they can actually get into certain fights a lot faster. Like for the Russians, like train station, if they just cut west out of Maine, they can get to train stations pretty quick, instead of getting clogged up with all the vehicles in that one wooden train bridge. um But yeah, there's certain good things, and then one of the other things too that I wanted to bring up too, are there are certain layers that absolutely need to be fixed or removed. One of them that I can tell you right off the bat that's like an absolute server killer is the is it Kokan Invasion? I'm actually in squad right now, so I'm gonna check really quick. But it's one of the Kokan invasion layers. Uh oh, it's the only Kokan invasion layer. It's V1. So on Kokan Invasion V1, the first flag is like 20 feet outside of Russia, Maine. And by that I mean it's really like 300 meters or whatever. But it's really, really, really close. There's like absolutely no way for anybody to make any sort of movement. At least in a pub match, you won't find that much coordination. Um, I love the map Kokan. I think it's incredible. But um to see it get roll all the time, like here, I'm gonna go to the live scene really quick and I'm gonna show you guys what I'm talking about. So first stand right here, like I can see first stand right there. That is first stand. It's so unbelievably close to Russia, Maine, that like your only options of leaving are either going up like here. You can go out east, but like they're so up here on my I'll place a move marker. Up here on the move marker is like where they can sit. So you can't really even get anything close to set up like a fob to attack or anything like that. Your only real option at the start of the match for moving logistics is going west out of Maine. And even then, like you've got 2 rows of 3 open fields that you have to absolutely just cut right through all of these. It's
So, Panic, are you suggesting that driving full logistics vehicles just straight to the first point is a bad strat?
it doesn't work 90% of the time. I've definitely tried it.
It doesn't,
Um,
because I sure see a lot of people try it.
I you know, I'm not gonna say I didn't try it before. I'm not gonna say I haven't tried it within the past 2 days either, but, it's fun when it happens, when it works, but getting up to here, especially when they're already planted in invasion and waiting, is a lot different. It's a hell of a
Hey,
lot
fun
different.
fun fact, that compound on your right of screen, if you hit the bank just before it with sufficient speed, you can land your Logi vehicle on the roof in there.
Right here.
Yeah, that bank right there. It's glorious. Doesn't always end in anything but horrible death, but it's a fun time.
We got the beautiful sulfur touched water. But yeah, so like there's really only like one option, and that's moving out far west um to try to get anything set up. And even then, now you're placing yourself like 800 meters away from an objective with a bunch of open fields. I think the best thing that they could do would be to like remove this remove this flag entirely. Maybe leave it at like the nest or something like that, or even push it back to like Sirach is the first one. Like Sirach would be the first flag, cut these two out, the nest and first stand go out, then it would go like Sirach, Tempest, maybe then to District Center or whatever it's called, then Market, then Ruins, or even District Center, then Ruins, then I forgot Stonebend, then Stonebend. But like
Yeah, I
having
mean,
these two flags sitting right outside of their main is insane.
well, it's nothing compared to Somali invasion, right? Where it's literally you throw a grenade and you hit the first point from US main.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, that's heavily infantry-based map, slightly different to this one. I two things I suppose. I would like to see invasion lanes actually be random points, so that the attacking team doesn't know, shouldn't know what the next objective is. And the other thing I'd say in terms of how to approach this first particular point with the way it's set up, I mean, it balances out in vanilla because, the competency on both teams is low enough where a lot of times there's not really that many defenders on the first point. And so a reasonably combined arms push from the attacking team who has the luxury of just, almost being able to shoot straight out of their main protection should work. It really should. There's a couple of BTR 80s. I think a Tiger or two. So you've got enough firepower there to get up on that first objective with your whole platoon, and you should against just about any other normal vanilla INS force greatly outnumber whatever's there. I think that's the way to approach it. I think trying to scatter and go around it just ends up getting the platoon fractured and burning a whole bunch of tickets. And tickets at the end of the day are really what drive a lot of the actions that are good versus bad in these various game modes. And having your platoon scatter like cockroaches out of main and go down in full logi trucks and unsupported armored pieces just getting ripped apart by enemy hats and lats on motorcycles. You've already lost half the tickets you start with to get the first point, and obviously you're giving the other team more time to reinforce the first point. So I think just being a bit more direct and more of a combined arms approach with infantry actually supporting the armored vehicles and vice versa would be an easy way to maybe approach it with more success than normally is the case.
And that's the thing, right? Is I'm thinking in like a pub match aspect, because a lot of these things could be solved with like thanks for the file, 65 words, appreciate it. Um a lot of these could be solved with like just team aspects. To Curry, thank you for the 5 months, brother. Um it All you really need is like it's the same thing that squad says, like for the three, the like it is its mantra or whatever, its motto is communicate, coordinate, conquer. But a lot of times, like with squads having such a steep learning curve and a lot of people being overwhelmed by the amount of coordination that goes into squad and the amount of communication, um, I think certain layers definitely could take a step back and just give a little bit of area. Like here's another good one. Um, a Basra Invasion V8. That's the one where the Chinese are invading like straight up in here. I'm gonna pull it up on stream here. Um, the first flag, which is bridge, sits literally 600 meters down south from the Chinese main. And not only is it extremely hard for the Chinese to get anything set up, like they would either have to like rush one of the coasts or like rush over here in the desert and then push across the road and everything like da, and they could get camped straight out of Maine, causing all sorts of different issues. But it's just not fun. I, I wish, especially on maps like this, they would like they've done a really good job of utilizing finally the southeast island when the main is moved, because this is a really fun place to fight over, and it's like it was never touched before these new layers were added where the main was moved. But like lower fringe, that could be something different. Like that could be moved northwest, like to over here. the Riverview Apartments North is a pretty cool cap zone. I think they could just cut like maybe move Refinery to like the suburbs or the west suburbs or where it is. Like there's a couple of things that could just go change to make certain layers like really, really, really fun. And I hope they take the time in the future to think more of the team aspect and more of like the fun of fighting. Aside from like total domination, because like I said, like some of these just don't work. They've been tried and tested. I've checked them and tested them, running them in map rotations many a times, and they just don't. They don't work out. Even with the boats, right? Like even with the addition of these boats, for a lot of people that haven't been paying attention or haven't been playing Squad recently, on a lot of maps, and Lon and I were just talking about this. They added boats to maps like Al Basra. Plenty of boats, right? But the issue here that lies with the boats is your main your main ends right where that flipped truck is. See that flipped truck? That's the end of your main protection. So by the time those boats head like 20, 30 meters south, they can already be watched from first stand. So you
Oh,
can
it's a
already have
turkey shoot.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's an absolute turkey shoot. No
I mean,
cover, no
I don't think
anything.
I'm giving away any secrets that I think this layer, the insurgents get a BTR, and so you just sit down there on the north side of the island, northeast of Maine, and you just rip those ribs apart. So that's like southeast of Refinery, and they've got no hope. They don't even know where they're getting killed from. But I think that's an example where they've added some functionality to a layer and a map without necessarily fully thinking through all the ways that it's going to be played by players, and that's fair enough. It's just whether or not there's any real desire from Offworld to actually update these layers and change them. And I think the problem they have is they've got so many of them. They're all sort of individual things in the SDK, and it would be a fairly big task to go through and update them all. That's for sure. There's 100 plus of the things.
100%. And I wouldn't be opposed to um like either like consulting or just giving like a helping hand, and not necessarily I don't need to be a part of the final product, but to just give ideas, which is kind of what we're doing now, on what you can do to give uh uh better matches to the people, right? It's just
We see that
overall.
overturned tanker down there that you pointed out earlier. That was an addition to evidently solve the problem, which doesn't really. The one down near PLA
Oh,
main.
yeah. That I mean, it's on this map, like with this layer, it means nothing because it's just wide open desert and water for the first cap zone. And I remember the last time I played this, I had to have I almost want to say it was Stinger Beast who's in chat, sit off over here with a vehicle and like suppress, and I drove a boat like right up here on the water's edge, and I put a fob. I'm not even shitting you. I put a fob like right here, and we had to like muster enough guys with like 30 tickets left to get in there, and we ended up capping it, but we didn't because it took so much to try to get this this cap zone. We ended up not capping Refinery because there's just too much going on. Or well, it's too much. They have too much leverage over the Chinese main. There's they're so close, and not only that, but they're an absolute straight shot, like we were just talking about. Like, oh no, the flipped truck. Like, you can see all the vehicles they have in their main. Like, you can count out what's alive and what's going where with just binoculars. Like, it's an absolute turkey shoot. Just like Lon said, you can strategize before they even leave main because you know exactly where they're all going. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where you got to really think, is it going to be fun for both sides? And in this case, for the Chinese faction, it is the opposite of fun most of the time.
Yeah, there are
Um,
a lot of reasons people hate certain maps. Performance is a classic one. Like certain maps like Manic or Scorpo, bigger maps, people can dislike because cost them frames. Some people don't like CQP style combat. Others love it and hate the open terrain. There's obviously a mixed bag with people's opinions, but I think when it comes to layers, match length can be also a reason why people hate certain layers. Like, so, the invasion layers on Gorodok come to mind that can, go close to 2 hours. Some of the invasion matches on this particular map on our Basra can go close to time as well. That can be fun, but you don't always want to have 2-hour game after 2-hour game after 2-hour game. So that's sort of a layer like that, even though I think, yes, it is broken, can be a fun turkey shoot, whichever side you're on. And it's probably not going to be, a long round until whatever the next map is. So it's not completely without merit.
True, true. I just try to think based on someone now who has seen a lot of the most recent complaints. That's one of the things I see of is like one side completely is either getting rolled and not having fun, and I would say probably like close to 50% of the time it's not even their fault. It's the layer, and then so I have to go and I have to go to someone else and say, hey, like this layer that's in the rotation isn't working. We need to swap it to either this or this to make it fun for everybody because the there I hate to use the word like too much communication, but there's a lot of coordination that has to go into winning that turkey shoot. Um, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in a public scenario, in a public match, it's a lot of effort for one team, and then it's draining, and then like the match ends, and then you see like half the team fall off, and it's like trying to think on a level where these communities pay for these servers, right? And their intentions are to try to have them going as long as possible, and then you got all these different factors that go into that, and one of the biggest factors that I'm seeing right now is burnout. When even if it's not even just squad burnout within just the game, but just burnout within a match. Um, it's very real right now, and it's because of certain factors like that.
Well, you don't want to play a match. I wouldn't think people want to play a match where you spend your whole time sort of like going from A to B to C to D, and the GG comes up, and you're like, "Well, I haven't fired my gun, I haven't seen the enemy," and that's that can happen, and so that can be But how do you solve that? If you rely on the game makers to put in mechanics that solve that, then you end up with a game more on rails, less of a sandbox. So I wouldn't necessarily be in favour of that. But I suppose the natural consequence is if there's not enough tools there, or the player base isn't generally educated enough about what's going on to make the matches somewhat competitive, or at least even, then yeah, you get steamrolls, and you get situations where you build a couple of habs and then GG comes up,
That's true.
and
That's
it's
true.
and it's that's not fun. I think that's one of the benefits of something like Invasion, at least theoretically, is that there should only be one objective to defend and one objective to attack. So that should simplify things for newer players when they, or if they open their map. They should be able to think, all right, well, look, that thing there that's on the map must be important. Maybe I should head in that direction. And hopefully, any new squad leaders will be able to figure that out as well. But you'll still see, the start of Invasion matches, teams spreading out like cockroaches, on both sides, doing God knows what, when there is only one objective on the map. So then you have, something like RAS, which, again, people just scatter to the winds and put random habs all over the place. And then with Advanced and Secure, which, where people can see what the points are, the problem can be, 5 guys on one team that are a bit more experienced using a slightly more optimal strategy will just win the match every time by, holding up an enemy team on their second cap or what have you. Again, not necessarily fun. So there's a lot of problems there, and I don't know if we should always be looking for them to be solved by the game maker, when it's in the hands of the player base. And obviously, a lot of our servers are hosted by various communities, and everyone's trying to build their community. And so it's just putting the time back into the players who play regularly on your squad servers to try and, as you do, educate them about some of the finer points of the various game modes and games, and hopefully retain them and get enough of a critical mass of squad leaders, and then suddenly you've got really awesome squad games going on that everyone wants to be a part of.
That is the goal. Um, yeah, it's just it's a matter of time. It's like I don't look at it as like a falling out or a falling in. It's just there's a new generation of squad players, right? Squads becoming more popular. You can check the numbers, right, compared to what it was three years ago, 4 years ago when I started playing 5 or 6 years ago. Um, Squad seeing a a steady increase in concurrent players outside of like their few dips and stuff like that have happened over time. But as that comes in and as there's a new generation of players coming in, um, they don't have the luxury we have or we have had where we were a part of. And when I say we, I'm talking about like the veteran squad players. We had the luxury of playing squad as it was progressing and becoming what it is today. So like we didn't have uh this like amalgamation of these different things to learn. It was just kind of like, oh, when I first started playing squad, there were no vehicles in the game. There was only a radio. When you drop the radio, people spawn on the radio. Then they added the hab, so we learned about the hab. Then they added the 14.5 BTR, so we learned about the 14.5 BTR. Then came like the 30 mic and all that stuff. You know what I mean? They added little things at a time, and we were able to learn a little bit at a time. But then you get this new generation of squad players, and there's all these different things, and there's all these different roles, and you've got the commander and you've got the squad leader, and people don't know how to do the command stuff. People aren't very familiar with the squad, being a squad leader. They're not comfortable with it. It's either overwhelming or intimidating for them. Whereas these things before were super easy because it was way less complex back then than it is now. So I think, um, and it's what I've been trying to do when I first started streaming like 6 months ago was I as a veteran player with all this knowledge, I'd like to pass it on to people, and give them that experience and also get more people into the game. And there's a lot of people that have come through the stream that either ended up sticking around and playing squad or ended up just straight up buying it because they either got recommended the stream or they thought about it and looked it up. Uh, they thought about playing squad, they looked it up, and they saw it, and I was like, "Hey, look, like this isn't a journey you have to take on your own. Like, come play. I'll show you how to play, or you can watch me and learn." Some people just prefer to watch and learn. Um, but it's I think it's time for a lot of the veteran players to just kind of, if we can, group together and like do something special to get these newer generation of players, this new generation of players to play, or to help them learn. It's just one of those things that for me personally, I know a lot of guys aren't into it, but for me personally, I really enjoy getting people into the game. It's a lot of fun. It keeps the game alive. Squad's probably top three favorite games of all time. So you know, it'll take time. Going back to what we were originally talking about, it'll take time, but I think I think over a very short amount of time, we will see a lot more come out of this, especially with learning these different game modes. We'll take the time. I'll definitely take the time to either do like some sort of explanation or tutorial to teach people the different game modes. But that's one of the big things we wanted to talk about today was game modes and how really only like half of squad's game modes are ever used. So
Majority of squad players, if you ask them to describe the game to a friend, I'm sure would describe it in terms of advanced and secure or random advanced and secure. It's about capturing an objective and then capturing the next one. Maybe they'd mention defending an objective. Not a lot of defense happens typically in vanilla games, but that's the majority experience that people have. And so I think to change that is going to require some shiny new magical game mode yet unpublished. Because I just think it's clear that the ones like Insurgency and Terror Control, even though they could be tweaked, I'm just not sure that they're not already dead and buried. And there's people who look at the game and they'll have problems with the terrain or certain way the buildings are designed or the windows, the micro terrain. They might think there's too much or not enough. And you've other people who issue with the actual game modes and where the cap points go, and then yet another group, fusses and worries about all the various mechanics. How many tickets do things cost? How long does it take to revive a player? Whether you get ammo or not when you respawn. And you can see various experiments that have been done in various squad mods. Some very good squad mods out there, fairly popular. I won't bother, naming too many of them. In fact, I won't bother naming any of them. I'll let chat do that. It'd be interesting to see what people like out there. But they all do things a little differently and tweak damage values and what have you in an attempt to make a better squad experience. And I'm not sure that any have really achieved that yet, because clearly they're not the majority game that people are looking to play. It's still random events and secure and more likely AAS. And to that end, I have a question for you, Panic, which is, with your comp experience, being a ex-world champion, or I don't know if you're reigning world champion, but with your comp experience, it seems like most comp is advanced and secure. And I was wondering if you could detail why that is and why other game modes aren't necessarily favoured in the competitive squad scene.
So as far as when I played competitive, I don't know the way that it works 100% now, but the way that we did it before was the tournaments ran off of a ladder system. All the maps would be predetermined before the tournament would start, so the teams could see what maps they were going to play on. Then it would be like the next step would be like showing what team was facing what team and on what map. And it was like 2 weeks ahead of time or a week ahead of time. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then you would have that 2 weeks to plan and run like a strategy and like, do all these different things. And I think the reason why they did that was to showcase strategic prowess and like to really show, like, let teams show how good their strategies are, like this or that. But I remember, um, geez, I can't remember what tournament we played in. One tournament one time where it was like an on the fly, and I think it might have just been like a for fun one. I don't think it was like an actual championship, but I remember playing this tournament where it was like an on the fly, where they kind of like tossed us in, uh, and we didn't know the map until like the day of, and I always thought that that was a really good idea for uh for on the fly strategy. There's a million different ways you could do it, or a bunch of different ways you could do it. I think that was just the reason why they went that way, was just to showcase strategic prowess and let teams see what maps they were playing on, let the vehicles practice and run their routes. Because I know routes were a big thing for for competitive. Using AAS, like one of your strongest part of your match is usually your opener. If your opener is weak, then you give up like very, very strategic points. It's really easy to get walked over. So that was why, but also, lastly, at the time, for at least the first 2 years, RAS wasn't a thing. I forgot to tell you this too. Like, RAS wasn't out then at the very beginning. So at the time, AAS was the only thing, and I think that's why it stuck around as well. That could be another contributing factor, was that there was no RAS. And if Telemon's still in chat, he might remember more than me. I don't remember exactly when RAS came out, but I know it wasn't out when we first played competitive for a while.
Well, it introduced the fog of war concept, and I think it was an attempt at the vanilla squad level to maybe stop the steamrolls that were happening as a result of rushing an enemy second or first point with a helicopter or whatever. And it used to be the case too with the different cap speed that we have now. It used to be a different mechanic where you could have one person on the first cap, and they would cap just as quick as if you had 10 people. So why would you leave 10 people there? Although obviously in comp squad, if you're only leaving one person on your first or second cap, you run the risk of them being killed, and it's game over at that point. In vanilla squad though, that became a thing where you'd get teams just getting rolled because they didn't really send sufficient forces to cap the first or second point. And I think to try and solve that was part of the reason for the differential in cap pressure. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars, depending on how many people you have inside the cap, to encourage teams to send maybe more forces to the early capture points to stop the enemy team steamrolling them, and hence having an unenjoyable game of squad for everyone. So I think that was an example of a change in official game mechanic aimed at fixing an actual problem. I think some of the other changes they've made, sometimes I scratch my head because I'm not sure really what problem they're trying to fix, and a lot of the time that there's a lot of unintended consequences that happen as a result. I think an example of that is all the proxy mechanics and that on HABs. You know, they stated they didn't want HABs being a meat grinder, and so they introduced the proxy mechanic. But I don't know if HABs being a meat grinder was a bad thing, right? It was a point of conflict on the map. It was a good gunfight. Sure, it could be a bit meat grindery, but you know, it's a war game. By having the HAB get proxied by a couple of guys who get within a certain distance of it, then I think it changes the way forward operating bases are viewed and contributed to them being seen and used as something that's more disposable, where you don't really want to build any defenses because a couple of guys get nearby, you proxied, you lose it, sort of thing.
I've been saying in chat that new HAB rules did contribute to the ruining of certain invasion layers, which I could see that, especially on like Korra.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's just part of the dynamic, and I think it's one of those things where like they have to rethink and um, there needs to be like a new iteration of layers based on all of the things that they've changed. Which that's not pointing fingers and blaming it on OWI because you know it's good to have change in a game and things be fresh, but there also has to be a level of consideration when it comes to one of the most important things, which would be the layers themselves. Um,
Tickets are hugely important too. And again, this is sort of different at the comp squad level versus the vanilla level. But I mean, classically, in the past, you know, armored pieces like main battle tanks have been worth, you know, a huge amount of tickets, and you get a couple of guys on your team yeeting your tanks at the enemy's toes, and it's game over. So, you know, trying to find that right balance where prized assets that shouldn't be, you know, wasted, have a penalty associated with them, but not such a high penalty that, you know, one or two foolish moves by vanilla players can rob a team of having a chance in a match, right? Like that's such a fine line to try and dance. And you know, even something as simple as how many tickets do you give the attacking team on an invasion layer? The number of tickets you get for, you know, capping a point, all those sorts of things, you know, factor in a lot to the what may or may not be the ultimate or optimal strategy for particular game modes.
that is true. I I wanted to talk a little bit too, kind of segueing slightly. I wanted to talk a little bit too about an idea I had with merging RAS and AAS together. The reason being, and a lot of people who don't know this in chat, I'm going to drop a link in chat. Um, RAS is not truly random, right? It's a set of predetermined layers that are randomly selected, but only up to like the first two or three flags, and then you can basically via a website called Squadlands know where all the flags are. So I'm dropping this link in chat, and I'll have you guys pull it up with me for a second. And we're gonna all do this at the same time because I'm gonna. This is the easiest way for me to explain this. So if you go to Team One main, which is normally like the United States main at the top left, right? If you click that circle, it shows all the different potential first flags, right? So if you click, let's see let's say abandoned airfield, right? The center one. We're gonna click that, and then it shows you where all the potential second flags are, right? But now watch. After you capture the second flag, watch how quickly the map narrows down and shows you like almost exactly where you need to be. So we're gonna go to like church as the second cap zone, right? Boom. Now you know exactly where the third and fourth flags are in such a close proximity because of knowing where the second flag is. It's such a different um it's such a different way of handling things, and it's I don't want to call it shoddy because I feel like I'm being disrespectful, but it's almost shoddy, like the way that you're doing these things, and it's not really random. This is just to show you guys it's not random. These are predetermined layers that are just in quotations randomly chosen um, before you get to the end the end layer, or in some cases it's either the fifth flag or the seventh flag. Sometimes you get like the 7 flag layers on like Kohat and stuff like that, or the fives, but it's not truly random. And I think one of the things I would like to see at some point in time with Squad is merging RAS and AAS together. The reason, and before I step down that road really quick, I want to explain why. There are, and Lon and I talked about this for a little bit. There are a lot of things that come with RAAS, right? It's not a bad game mode, but it's not executed properly, in my opinion. The reason why I say this is when you get RAS and we go back to like the US main, right? I'm on Squad Lanes, I'm going back, I'm clicking the US main. You could get a bunch of teams or like a bunch of squads that go in like different directions at the beginning of a RAS match, and you could get fobs thrown in like all these random places because you don't know where the flags are. And it creates so much confusion and headache when this happens based on the like misuse. It's not like negligence either, but like the misuse of logistics, both in like construction and ammo and the logistics of troops themselves. The I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. The misplacement of vehicles, like having vehicles all the way on the other side of the map, not knowing that the flag's going to be at like the center of the map or the top of the map or the south of the map, things like that. So there's like all these different, to sum it up, like there's all these different factors that go into um what can be a problem with RAS. But one of the things that I thought quite a while ago was if you merged RAS and AAS together and they just took like a page out of the RAS book and instead of hiding the different flags, just have it show all the flags when the match starts. But if it's say if it's Narva RAS V3, right? Or RAS V1, it just chooses one of these because if you guys are still looking at squad lanes, it just chooses one of these preset layers. So if you click on like radio station, then you click on textile factory, then you click on dog apartments, like it just goes that way and it shows all of that at once. And then the next time you play Narva RAS V1, then it goes to Farmstead, then it goes to Narva Ruins, then it goes to Village, then it goes to Kanepi. But it shows all the flags. That reduces a lot of headache. It increases the amount of cohesion that happens amongst the team, but it also leaves that dynamic that RAS brought to the table where each match is technically different, but it's less slow and there's more action and there's a lot less downtime, because I think Squad is filled with a lot of downtime right now. And it's not, and downtime is okay when it's good downtime, but right now it's just like I said, it's that like misplacement of logistics, it's the misplacement of troops based on things going around to these random areas. If you just had it randomly select one of the RAS preset layers and show everything on the map at the start of the match like a normal AAS match, I think that would increase like combat volume, that would increase cohesion, that would increase the amount of fun that people would have because they're constantly engaging in the active fight. Maybe if it's not necessarily like a huge firefight, right? Like it's not like we're playing on Sumari, but if it's a big fight over like Oru Village, everybody that plays Narva that's played for a while knows Oru Village. That's like one of the big cap zones that's super fun to fight over. So if everyone's a part of the active fight and Oru Village is on the map, everyone's playing in or around Oru Village, and you've got this nice like this nice volume of fun happening like in a bubble in or around the active cap zones. Whereas in RAS, you can kind of get lost and stray away and move away from the action unintentionally, without negligence, without it being a squad leader's fault, because it's in quotations random and there's this fog of war. What do you think about that, Lon?
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said, and for it to actually be more random. I mean, it can't be completely random. I suppose you can't necessarily, or maybe you can, but have caps going back into already claimed territory. The way it's currently set up, you're always moving in the general direction of the enemy main base. I suppose truly random would be going anywhere on the map, and then maybe a backtrap. So maybe something more random, but not completely random. I do think your point there about having people being able to see the objectives and what they are allows for a more cohesive, perhaps, planning and reason for why people are going where they're going when they leave main at the start of a match than is the case with fog or wall layers. But just thinking about when you're talking there too about Uru Village, I think what's important, and it's probably the case for the current random advanced and secure, is that the distance between sort of the middle cap points makes a big difference to the gameplay. An example might be, say, on Yehivivka, a big map, where there might literally be 1,000 meters between both teams' third and fourth objectives, which is normally about the center of the objectives. You end up a lot with double neutrals going on for just backwards and forwards double neutrals, because in vanilla squad typically people don't want to defend. They all just sort of lemming on the attack. So you get these really somewhat annoying and boring double neutrals happen a lot as a result. And potentially, on other layers that are also random, advanced, and secure, when those middle points are closer together, I feel like you get better fights across the two objectives. But you go and put that same sort of setup on a advanced and secure layer where everyone can see the points. Normally, that area is going to be captured as a group of 2 points by a team, because they can see it on the map to begin with. So they allocate sufficient resources to go and make sure that they get that area, because it's 2 for the price of 1 sort of thing. Whereas in random advanced and secure, theoretically, you shouldn't necessarily know that the enemy's third point is 300 meters away from your third point, sort of thing.
Okay, so like a middle ground. I see, where you're given like yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it used to be possible quite a lot where, and I'm sure this was the case in my limited comp experience, where you wouldn't always want as many objective locations as you could get. Sometimes, like your third objective was super defensible, and you could grind quite a lot of tickets off the other team by just holding onto that. And some of the layers on Talil come to mind as examples, where you could cap 2 of your objectives and still win the game quite comfortably, just because of how much it costs the enemy team to attack you, because of terrain advantages. And I feel like that's not necessarily the case anymore, because they've introduced the ticket bleed, changed the values you get for getting caps, etc. Where that's less of a thing that I see now. Normally, the team that's winning is the team that has the most objectives.
Do you remember the game mode pass parallel AAS?
I do, yeah. And there's other. What's the example of that? Like Great Britain versus Russia on Gorodok comes to mind, where there's like radio tower and fortress, and it's like a split route.
Yep,
Whether or
they
not
do
you
that
could
on
bring that up on
Fallujah
screen to
too.
show everyone.
Yeah, let me
Is
see.
there one on Fallujah? I
Yeah, there is
wasn't
one on
aware of one on
Fallujah.
Fallujah.
Yeah, there's one on Fallujah. I can't remember which. I'll look for it really quick while I'm trying to find it. Fallujah. I want to say it was one of the Fallujah AASs. Maybe it's not. I'll look while we're talking. But there is one on Fallujah. If anybody in chat remembers which one it is, let me know, and I'll pull it up on the screen. But there are a few parallel AAS layers that still semi exist in the game, where like there's 1 or 2 cap zones that are connected via the parallel route. For those who don't know what we're talking about, um, Pass used to be a game mode that existed in Squad, where the line would split, or the layer would split, and there would be, instead of 1 cap zone next, it would be 2 cap zones in order to cap. So we'll say you capture your first flag, right? Then it splits off into 2 directions. You have to cap both of those flags to get to the third one, right? Does that, if hopefully that makes sense for anybody while I'm trying to find this. But it was a very, very, very unique game mode, and I don't remember the actual reasoning behind why they took it out, but I can only imagine because of the complexity, maybe.
The one I'm most familiar with is the one on Gorodok, and it's radio tower and
Do you remember the
the
layer?
fortress. Oh, the layer name, no.
There's
It
so
may have
many
changed,
layers.
and there are a lot. So if I guess, you're likely going to bring something up that's not it. But you have a lot of backwards and forwards going on, right, between the 2 points. You know, normally because there'd be, a strong squad on each team that would be oscillating between the two going to fix the defensive problems, and there'd be obviously a whole bunch of, you know, double neutral sort of style situations, which, for your average junior squad player, they've got no clue what that means, or where they need to be as a result. I think that's a part of the mechanic that's a bit mysterious until you really pay attention to it and the nuances of how to get yourself out of a double neutral. Like most squad players won't know that at that point you've got to deny the enemy getting into the cap zone. It's not about having more guys than them on the cap zone. More often than not, it's just the fact that they get in there, they'll start capping it. So you've got to, change perhaps how you're looking at your, if your perimeter security, you can't just sort of maybe sit in one spot. But that's not really understood, right, by 95% of the people in the game. So those matches are normally backwards and forwards between, the small experienced element on each side trying to, put out fires as best they can. Can be fun. Depends on the terrain. I vaguely remember the Fallujah one. I think it runs east to west, if I remember, west east sort of caps.
Yeah, I've been looking
that,
for it. I can't find it.
and that was a classic example where you could never quite seem to get your hands on that extra cap after the middle two split, just because you'd always then suddenly, with 5% to go to cap, you'd lose one of the other two. I'm not sure. I mean, some of those fights can be fun, but they can be a bit of a headache in command net because, unless people really understand what's going on with the neutrals and all that sort of thing, it can suffer from the same problems that territory control suffers from, which is, leadership just not knowing actually where they need to be.
Yeah, so it's just something to think about. I just thought about in the past and thought maybe, kind of like what Assault was saying in chat, where like past would keep more of like a forward online type of fight. So a lot of your fighting would be centralized between those parallel cap zones, because in order to go to the enemy's second cap, you have to own both of the third caps. You have to own both of those two split ones. Um, I'm just I'm kind of just brainstorming and thinking at the same time and speaking out loud, bouncing ideas off you, because these are all different things that through further thought or like a deeper thought could produce a great idea. And I think we've spoken about a lot of those, especially with your idea of like true RAS. A lot of people like that in chat, and then the uh, I guess the need for changing layers because of the multitude of changes that have happened in squad over the past like 2 years. Um, but there's a lot of directions to head, and I think we could potentially be on the right path with all of the things we spoke about today, especially getting people into playing the different game modes and things. And but if is there anything else we needed to talk about on those subjects alone that we missed?
I mean, they're vast topics. Probably talk for days on it. But I think,
True,
yeah, we've touched upon just about everything, unless chat thinks we've missed something and can point something out.
because I saved the best for last, and this includes all of us. This includes myself, Lon, and everybody that's here in chat. I'm gonna drop uh an age old relic in chat. This is the reality mod of Map Gallery. Okay. For those who don't know, this is where Squad was based off of. Squad was a spin up idea from Project Reality. I saved the my last question, which is for all of us. What map would you guys like to see? Map or maps? Give a couple of them if you can find them. What map or maps would you like to see put in the squad based off of uh, its current play style, the current vehicle assets that are available, all those different sorts of things, and let me know. I personally, I have the link up already. This is a map that I've told people a million times. I'll start it off. I think that Mutra City would be a super fun map to play. And so exactly, Ivan, in squad. Squads, they already have the aircraft carriers. They already have the aquatic vehicles. They've got the rib boats and everything. Moocher City would be so much fun to play. Well, check it out, Dub. Check out that link that I posted in there. Here, I'll post it a couple more times so everybody sees it. Those are all the different maps in Project Reality. You'll notice that a lot of those maps um, are in squad already. Well, not a lot of, well, compared to the map pool they have, but a lot of the maps that are in squad are on that list. Korengal, yeah, the Korengal Valley Insurgency. That was I played on one of the hardcore servers. I played Korengal Insurgency a lot on that server, and Fallujah West Insurgency. Those were my absolute favorites. Assault on Grozny. Let me look at that one really quick.
I'd like to see a North American objective that's not Canadian, you know, whether that's downtown LA or some, you know, made up American Midwest town in the middle of wherever. I think that would be, you know, a different terrain feature set and breathe a little bit of extra life in the game, because you know there's a lot of content in Squad that's based around about the year 2010 in terms of the guns and the various bits and pieces. You know, 5 years either side of 2010 seems to be about the time in history that they're choosing, and a lot of the maps are from that time where there were conflicts going on, you know, in and around the 2010s. But obviously, you know, with things like Manic, etc., it's not a hard and fast rule they have. So yeah, I'd like to see. I don't know. I think maybe Disney World. That'd be pretty cool as a map. What does chat think? We
Suit
can
up,
have
boys.
random
We're going
Mickey
to
Mouse
Skid
and Donald
Row.
Duck. Yeah, think of the emote possibilities for them if it's Disney World and the cross marketing.
Oh, there we go. You guys heard it here first. We're going to Disney World post-apocalyptic. We'll have our emotes. You can do your Goofy dance from the Goof Troop movie. Easy.
But the
Yeah.
urban environments we have are all sort of like somewhat, you know, Eastern European or Middle Eastern low to medium rise. It'd be interesting to have something with, you know, a couple of skyscrapers, although I don't know if that stretches, you know, the engine's limits, and maybe gameplay that'd just be cancer anyway and a bad idea.
Uh, like even like Chicago or something with like, I think high rises would be too much for the current engine. I think it would kill a lot of frames, but like something where it's like a downtown setting, but it's like a remote, or not remote, like an isolated area. Even if it was just like just like an infantry only map, or if it just had like I don't know, like MRAPs and Humvees and maybe some strikers and BTRs, no tanks or anything, but just like downtown, that'd be pretty cool.
I think there's a lot of variation possible, right? You touched on something there, like infantry only map. I don't know why we don't have in the official vanilla layers of the game layers that are. I think, well, actually, there might be one. I think it's Australia v INS Ancora, but where everyone's got iron sights type sort of thing, or you know, red dots or equivalent, where you don't have everyone running around with optics. I think that would change the gameplay immeasurably. And it's not that I'm suggesting every map should be like that, but I think, you know, again, the variety might be fun when it's a somewhat level playing field. There will always be those who will say, yeah, you should hand out the DMR kits, but I think, you know, if everyone's got iron sights or similar, and there's no vehicles running around, I mean, that's a really different playing experience. And some of those types of experiences, you know, I think would be very easy for them to put in the game, right? It's just switching stuff off and choosing what kits are available more than anything else. A lot of communities do that. I mean, the community that I play a lot of my squad with, Squad Ops, has one life events, and we essentially do that. You know, make up our own rules and own kit choices, and it really does change the way that squad plays quite a lot. Not just the one life aspect, but the fact that you're using iron sights makes you much more reliant upon your squad leader who has the binos, because you don't. There's a lot more teamwork that happens. Fights are a lot closer. It's more visceral than killing people from 500 meters away.
True. True. I like that. So I was reading chat too. And I was liking the ideas. So they were saying like maybe like a jungle map, which is cool because we haven't seen like any sort of like Pacific Islander maps or anything like that, uh, or Pacific Island maps. Uh, we haven't seen like someone said Africa. I think that was Dan Delta Man said Africa. Uh, Doob said Venice Beach. Very specific,
I like
but
that
I
one.
like
Yeah.
it. I don't know if they would ever work on something that was like DC because it's too specific, like politically. So I don't know. DC, I mean, DC would be cool, but I don't know if they would do that because of its political influence. I really like urban maps too, Colin. I'm a huge urban map nerd. That's why I like Albazar so much. It goes straight from the desert right into the city.
A
Um,
lot of the maps in Squad, are previously done by, enthusiasts, by modders, and there are modded maps out there that, touch on some of those biomes that you mentioned, like there's an island one with palm trees and sort of jungle. Terrible, frames per second when I played it, but yeah, I mean, it looked like somewhere in the Pacific, I think. I can't remember specifically where. There's some other Middle Eastern maps, Panjwar comes to mind, which I
Edgeway,
think
yeah.
pretty cool map. It's a good size. I like the variation, terrain, and height.
They had the
Um,
tunnel system in that one, didn't they, in Panjwai?
and it's got up that tunnel under the mountain. And then, to my knowledge, I don't think any of the objectives really end up there. But yeah, it's got quite an extensive tunnel system. So the modded maps, what Balea Pass is another one. There's a number of them out there, and OWI have, over time brought some of them into the game, and indeed, put on put on stuff. Some of the people who have designed those, Wonder, WUNDA comes to mind. And he was responsible for a lot of the relighting of maps, on Yeho and Gorodok in, I think, the update that dropped, beginning of last year.
There were
But yeah, so I don't know if they're actively looking to, to develop new maps, or if, the community wants them to maybe focus on optimizing the ones that we've got first, which I think would be a better idea.
there was there were two other maps that I thought would fit really well in Squad. They kind of still fit the same theme. Oh, here they are. Kashan Desert was the first map that I ever learned how to fly helis on. That's a really fun vehicle map. I'm trying to think for like everybody because I'm not a vehicle player, but I'm trying to think on everybody's level of fun. So Kashan Desert was one of them, and then Musakala, I thought would be a really really fun infantry map because of all the like dips and tunnels, or not dips and tunnels, like all the dips and like the wadis and the different fields and stuff like that. Um, it would be quite an experience playing on that map, even doing like insurgency or like invasion. It'd be pretty neat, and they're decently sized maps too. So there's a lot of what was the other one that Berserk said? Was it somebody said Operation Soul Rebel? Oh, this is the one where it's just a straight up island. This is what I think they were working on that was like north of it reminds me of the north side of Scorpo. If anybody was ever there back in the day for the Scorpo playtest, um we actually never tested the bottom side of Scorpo, that island that's up to the north. It used to be um like a pretty barren island with this like bunker in the center. Wake Island would be a great map assault. Um, but there used to be this huge like bunker in the center of that North Island on Scorpo, and it went down like 10 stories. And during the playtest, we had like an all-out brawl because the capstone was at like the bottom of that bunker. Like that stuff was wild. But this map, the Operation Soul Rebel, reminds me of that. I see Lashar. Kunar Province would probably be another one, another good one. It reminds me a lot of Camdesh. Yeah, a couple more urban ones. Definitely. Oh, Romule's another good one too. A couple more urban ones. Definitely what Lon was saying with like something that's either like North America. Somebody in chat said it earlier too, and I just remembered it too, like a South American one, like an almost like tropical, not necessarily like an island map, but a tropical map would be cool. Africa would be cool. I don't think we're gonna get anything on the Asian side. I really don't see that happening. So I would oh, a favela map would be cool. I would dig that. That would be a lot like Fallujah where there's like all these different like uh non-symmetrical buildings with all these like different kill holes and spots that you got to check. That would be pretty interesting.
I feel like with the current sort of library of maps within Squad, there's also a lot of just underutilized areas on those maps where we don't seem to fight over too much, and so I feel like there's definitely a lot that can be done with what's existing to rather than just necessarily coming up with something new. Because it's all cool and everything once a new map comes out, and like I'm like everyone else, I want to play the new map, but I feel like I'd like to see more focus on going back to all the maps and updating them all, optimizing them all, um, looking at the way that game mode layers progress on the objectives, try and come up with a way to make it more random. I think that there without changing any of the other game mechanics in terms of how long it takes to revive someone or how many construction points had cost for what faction. I think just going back through and doing that would be a huge step forward for the playability of Squad, and for the enjoyment of people, because I feel like the current way that happens, a map gets made, it gets worked on, it gets released, and then it's sort of left and forgotten.
I'm glad you said that actually, because a great example, and I'm about to pull it up on stream, is Harju. Every time I play Harju, it's like the same like 5, 6, 7 cap zones, and the entire northwest side of that map is like never utilized. I'm gonna pull it up on stream really quick here. So there is all these different cap zones that are up to the north, and I God help me because I don't remember all the names of them, but I'm speeding over there now. If I was heading in the right direction, but they're all a majority like up here. There's a ton of different cap zones. There's even a cap zone that has a
There's a
cave
castle.
system. Yeah, the
Oh, there is.
castle. Yeah, there's a cave system up here too. Hold on, I'm heading up there right now. I'll show you the. I know exactly where the castle is. It's right here.
Yeah, we had a One Life event, and I was attached to Command, and Command decided to sit on that castle and wait for his A10 call in. So I was getting a little bored, but I did have binos, and the enemy team were assaulting where the A10s crashed on this airfield that you're flying over. And yeah, I was just sitting there chilling, listening to command net traffic and looking at the countryside with my binos, thinking exactly what you're saying is like like half maybe three quarters of what I'm looking at. I've never actually like walked in game or fought over. Like I wonder why they put all the effort into making these really cool looking points like the one on your screen, and we don't use them.
Dude, the castle. I've played where this the castle was a cap zone one time, and it was so much fun. Their fob was in here. These guys are holding all these different angles, and we got to breach the castle. We ended up putting a fob over here and stretching ladders to get over this wall so we could like breach this castle. It was it was like a modern day siege. It was so funny. Um, and there's a couple other cap zones that are over here that are like never used. Is this the one I'm thinking of? Yeah. So check this out, dude. This is a connecting cave system that connects to that building. So if you go down here, this is such a cool cap zone. So it goes down kind of like on Fool's Road. Which way is the way to go down? I'm trying to find my way around here because I've only been in here a couple of times. Wait, that was the entrance. So is it this way? Oh, I think it's this way. Yeah, you go down the steps. It will actually go into like a real cave whenever it shows me. Yeah, now I'm in the cave. It comes out there and then it goes down further this way. There's a way to get up into one of the buildings. Is it this way? Yeah, and I think it comes through here and it comes up in that big building. Yeah, and then see it pops up in here. It's a connecting cave system. This whole cap zone is so cool, and I've never played it.
You got high ground there too, up on the hill above it.
Yeah, there's so many cool possibilities with playing on this cap zone. Never seen. Oh, also, where's it at? Hold on. I'm gonna show everybody something cool really quick. Is it here? Check my map again. Oh no, it's here. Praise be, boys and girls. Praise be. It's the sphere. Usually found on every map. Big old Easter egg. Can I drop myself here? This one's not killing me, no.
Yeah, the one on Anvil definitely does.
Yeah, it makes like weird like whoa 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 noises and stuff. It looks like a little alien crash. Yeah. But yeah, there's so many cool capstones. The other one too. Have you seen the missile silo? This
Yes.
map,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's full of so many different cool capstones, and they're like never used. It's so sad. The missile silo is so cool. I'm gonna take
Well,
you guys
the
in chat to that really
the
quick.
harbor being sort of like the entire southern half of the map also opens up some good with the little islands. Perhaps heavily amphibious layers as well, where you're sort of using coast and island hopping.
True. I think it would be cool if they flipped it too, and the invasion was the other way around. Like it was like a pushback from like the north side, instead of like making it happen from the coast. And like you could start at like the cave system cap zone and like push back to the airfield and to the city or something like that. And it could just be like in quotations the defending force like retaking the city or something. That could be like the lore behind it. This cap zone is so cool though. There's like a mission control, like an operating room. Here's the actual silo down here, boys. Uh there's like a control room. Oh, this is the control room. All these beat boot buttons. But yeah, I mean the capstones are super cool. Super, super cool. You can I'll pop down for a second so you can see all the different rooms and stuff around. It's a big, big system. But you hardly ever get to play it. It's too much fun. Too much fun. I played this a couple of times in Invasion. Unfortunately, the last time I played it, it was where the hell does this go? Um the last time I played it, we had to deal with some hacker man throwing like smoke grenades everywhere. But
This island system you're flying over now, right? Like, I feel like if both teams have sort of just got transport ribs and you're fighting to secure islands, that would be a pretty cool sort of layout. I did do a play test on Manic where they were testing putting objectives up north on the map in the water that's being held back by the dam. But even in the play test, it didn't take too long for us to figure out that you stick a toe on one end of the dam and the enemy team's got no hope so there's a lot of times I feel like the person who's in charge of designing layers over at OWI doesn't maybe even play squad. That's probably unfair, but it's I feel like there's so much awesome terrain that they have. Surely it's easy to comparatively to use it all and set up multiple different layers, multiple
True.
different assets, different optics, and all that stuff's already existing in the game. So you're not paying for development. You're paying just for fine tuning.
I would like for them to get in touch with us. If you're listening or if you're here or you're around, if this gets to you guys, definitely come talk to us. We'll definitely help you. I'm 100% down to consult and give critical feedback and constructive criticism um,
I'd
to
love to actually hear from some real life level designers who have the professional expertise, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I'm giving that's just my opinion as a player, that there's good reason why it's done a particular way, and it'd be great to hear that detail.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. The looking at the list, I'm seeing if I lastly, this is like a segueing to the last topic. We're kind of looping back. Um, but this is something for me personally that I said that I would love to see finished in squad, and I talked to Lon about this a little bit before the stream started. Is the game mode Insurgency? It was my favorite, and still is my favorite game mode of all time in any game I've ever played. Truly, Um, one of the most dynamic game modes you could possibly play. That being said, in squad, Insurgency is not finished. I know they said they would never add like the bomb cars and stuff. That's totally fine. I get it. It's a different era. People aren't into, or you don't want to get the game canceled or whatever. But one of the coolest parts about Insurgency and Project Reality was playing as the civilians. For those who don't know, the civilians, um, they were played as by the insurgents. They worked in three different ways. One, to get intelligence for the caches as the invading force, or as the quote coalition force, you had to zip tie and arrest the civilians, and then you would get intelligence on where the caches were, and only then would the caches show up on the map. Second, if the coalition forces accidentally killed a civilian, it cost them like 20 tickets. It was like losing a radio. Like, it was super important not to kill them. Three, the reason why it was fun and the incentive to play as a civilian was you could go around in like civilian vehicles or on motorcycles, and your job was to give intelligence back to the guys and tell them where the vehicles and stuff were. And to also not get arrested. So it was fun getting chased down and them trying to like arrest you for intelligence, but also trying to not get yourself killed or arrested and feed that intelligence back. It was a really cool dynamic. Um, like I was telling Lon before the stream started, like going through the city and like seeing the civilians like through this, like shifting through the city, and like it added this like whole different vibe where it felt like a living, breathing like community. Um, it was very different and it was very cool. And I hope that that comes to squad one day. Um, it like to me in my heart, Insurgency, the game mode in squad doesn't feel finished. If that's all that they have to offer and that's all they want to do with it, I would still have fun playing it from time to time. But I think there's a certain level of fun that could be had with playing as a civilian, understanding that it's not a civilian murder simulator. Like, there's a serious penalty to coalition forces accidentally killing or taking the life uh, of a civilian. There's pros to arresting them, or well, not arresting, detaining them with the zip ties, and that's how you get your intelligence. It was just super fun. It was super cool. It's a game mode that's already in squad, and it's just so untouched. And I don't want to say it's so unfinished because it's basically finished. You could just add like one extra dynamic or one extra uh, contributing dynamic to it that would make it super fun. But with all that being said, it's always and forever been my favorite game mode. I think it would be super, super cool to have on there. Now that
Yeah,
we're,
I hope so.
yeah, I mean, I would love to see it. I would absolutely 100% make like a full blown tutorial for this if they did that.
But I mean, saying the same thing just a different way, and it almost touches upon last week's Squadcast, which for those out there who haven't watched it, make sure you go to Don't Panic's YouTube channel for the video on demand. But new maps, they're better for marketing. And I think the same is probably true for new game modes. The corporate incentive for OWI, their company, is to turn something out shiny, new, and marketable. And fixing up stuff that's already sort of in the game isn't probably as easy to market as something that's shiny and new at the end of the day.
And if it's a problem with the name Insurgency, like on a political level, you could just change it to Search and Destroy, because that's literally what it is. Your whole goal is to search and destroy weapons caches. That's it.
Is that a trigger term, insurgency, these days?
It could,
I
who could
need to keep up.
dude, I don't know, man. I'm trying to get up with the times, but like I always feel like I'm a step behind. I maybe I mean they're hooting and hollering about 6 days in Fallujah coming out. Um,
Disgruntled locals doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it?
no, it doesn't. Just like the when they named it the shitty Dishka Technical, the Humvee, the black Humvee,
I love
because they
that
could,
thing. It's so gangster.
yeah, because they didn't have the license for it yet, so they couldn't the rights for it yet, so they couldn't call it a Humvee, so they had called it a shitty Dishka Technical. But we all know damn well that was a Humvee, boys. Oh, yeah, I mean, OWI, if you're listening, dude, I've been playing your game for years. I'm still playing the game just like I did Project Reality. If you ever want somebody to consult that's put a plethora of hours into your game, I think right now I'm like pushing like 6,100 hours. Lawn Darts has over 10,000. Reach out to me. I'm much different than what I used to be. I'm a very open-minded person. I'm an old boomer now. I'm in my 30s. I'm very much willing to sit down with you guys and be super professional. Like I said, unbiased, open-minded, willing to give you guys any sort of input that you could need from someone who's played the game long enough to understand any sort of potential consequence to doing said things based on changes. So I'm always here. I'm always around. I stream every day. Most of the time it's squad. So I'm here. Lawn Darts is here. There's a lot of other people in the community here. Reach out and talk to us. We're right here. Easy to reach. Hit me up anytime. Hit Lawn up anytime. We're always around. Would love to give some ideas and bounce some ideas off you. Even if it's just like doesn't even have to be like a concrete thing. Like, why don't we do like a little round table thing and we'll sit around and talk to each other and just bounce ideas, shoot the shit. Doesn't have to be live streamed. It could just be in a closed setting and we talk about it. So, well, Bugger, all these new kids call the 30 something gamers. We're apparently boomer gamers now. So it'd be what it be. If you own GoldenEye 007 on the N64, apparently you're in a midlife crisis right now, which is what these youngins have told me. It is loads of fun when you play with someone that knows how to. That's correct. Yeah, it's good conversation it's imperative for the development and constructive criticism that comes with it when it comes to evolving in a game that is so complex and has so much to offer and has so much potential to better itself. Treese, thank you so much for that follow, by the way, brother. But Squad is such a unique platform. There are so many things that you could do with the game, and you have like Squad is already popular for its niche. Like the road is paved. Oh, I appreciate it, Treese. Thank you. Sorry about that. The road is paved, right? All they have to do is move forward and like produce lanes. And these are the lanes of like opportunity. You can go whatever way you want. It's a wide open area. Reach out and talk to us and we'll, we'll bounce ideas off you, or you can bounce ideas off of us and get our thoughts or our criticism on it. And we'll definitely be open-minded about it. There we go, Toasty. That's what I'm talking about, brother. Oh, is there anything else that you wanted to speak on specifically for this episode, Lon?
I think we've covered most of the main topics when it comes to layers game modes. I mean, there's obviously a lot of rabbit holes we could go down and discuss specific things like the speed of player movement, right? Like that was something that sped up 12 months ago, and that changed the game a fair bit. And there's so many things like that influence the gameplay. It's not just the layers or the game modes that we probably literally could talk forever.
Oh, we could get on that, and then we'd go down the rabbit hole of inertia. Then we would go down the rabbit hole of like the lean spamming, even though it's not as popular, people still do it. It's a very, very unique very unique thing that we could go down, like you said, down an absolute rabbit hole on. Discuss the layer or discuss Subpen's Black Coast.
Oh yeah.
What's
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a quick opinion on that. It's a better version of the tunnel and Belaya insofar as that it tends not to be quite the same sort of grinder, and it's definitely not like the tunnel and Mestia. So it's more interesting. There's more way in and out. So I think it's generally an improvement of level design when it comes to sort of subterranean objectives. The ambiance in there, the lighting, very cool. Looks awesome with firefights with muzzle flashes and all that, and you do feel like you're fighting over meters in the tunnel as opposed to say hundreds of meters on the rest of the map. It is
True.
pretty cool.
It's quite a unique experience when the entire cap zone is like 3 stories deep, and you've got like guys fighting on top, you've got guys fighting at 2 different entrances, you got guys down in the bottom fighting. The actual sub pens can have aquatic vehicles pushing through them. Um, I just pulled up the map on the. We'll show this to the people on the stream here.
The other thing that
Um,
really adds to it that I should be congratulated for is the sound design in the subterranean is awesome too. Like with everything you were just saying, with all the different firefights going on, like that's reflected through the sound mapping and the environment. Very
hey,
immersive.
I'll turn my sound on too so people can hear what we're talking about. But it's like so here's one of the entrances, right? There's an entrance here. There's an entrance down here. There are 2 aquatic entrances right here. There is another tunnel that is going to be over here.
Yeah, there's like
And,
a road entry. Yep.
and then there's the entrance to the top from the radio. Now, if I can get under the map so you guys can see it, let me go down further here. It'll let me. Oh, the game. Am I dead? Oh, there we go. It did not like that. We'll go down here. We'll just fly down here. But this capstone is huge. I mean, it's completely underground. There's multiple different levels to it. Let me turn my game audio on so you guys can hear this real quick. But they did such a good job with the audio design. Like, oh, let me.
Oh, you're with the landing cam at main, so you still got main protection.
I do still have main protection. Let me admin restart. We'll fly over there really quick. I can speed up the. I can do admin slow mo and like fly over there real fast in a vehicle. But it's such a fun cap zone.
Advance and secure. Marines, push out and secure all objective areas.
So if you guys don't know, there's a video I have on YouTube that tells you how to do all this stuff that I'm doing to speed up and slow down time on the match. You can see how fast it's going up here at the top. I think this heli spawns in just about now. There we go.
You gonna fly at that speed? Because I'll be impressed.
I could do it.
Challenge
Oh my god!
accepted. All right.
I can't. I gotta. Where's the?
I know, right? Because it's going so fast. You're hopping out of the vehicle before you hop in it, sort of thing. You got to ninja the F key.
Here we go. Here we go. I just need the lead pilot kit. You know, maybe this was not the best idea. Oh, here we go. All right, we're good. Your pilot, yeah. I'm gonna go in from the top over here by the radio tower. Not really worried about knocking my blades off. So these are the stairs that go like all the way down into the sub pens, and I'm only turning this on so you guys can see how fast everything moves, or not how fast everything. Sorry, how deep everything is. It's super cool. Here, I'll go back to slow-mo 1 now. So once you get all the way down, the audio design down here was crazy. And when the AKs are shooting and stuff, it gets real loud down here. Right now, I'm just using the M27. But it goes down, it goes up here, it goes down that way. There's stairs that go up there. There's another set of stairs. I'm down, Noodle. There's stairs that play right here. I'll tell you what, if you guys come to the Squad Ops Mixed Mode Seed tonight, I will set this layer as the second, or the one after Seed. We'll take care of that. But, I mean, it goes all over the place, Noodle. There's like 5, 6, 7 different entrances. I could probably fly through now since I'm not at main protection anymore. But you can drive vehicles into here.
So, pro tip for anyone playing this for the first time, the pipes that are just up above the walkways here, you can get up on top of.
Yes, you can.
And it can be very hard to know where the hell you're being shot from if someone gets a crazy angle on you from on top of those pipes. So you sort of got to really be aware of your vertical situational awareness, not just what's in front of you, behind you, etc., but what's above you.
There's all these nooks and crannies you can get in. It's everywhere. Spicy. So, that being said, everybody, we're reaching the 2-hour mark here on the episode 2 of the Squadcast. I think we just about reached all of our points of discussion today. I don't think we missed anything. If we did, we'll wrap it back up, or we'll talk about it next time. I'll let you guys know what the next topic is going to be. If you guys want to continue the discussion about this week's podcast or Squadcast, it's going to be in the Discord. There's a channel for it called Squadcast already. You guys are more than welcome to go there and talk about it. Stream should start normal time in about an hour. I'm just going to take a break, get some food, do all that good stuff. And then we'll be back on for the normal squad stream in an hour. Guys, if you haven't checked out Lawn Darts already, please go sub to him on YouTube and show him love. He makes great content, very informational stuff. Also, if you guys haven't seen his stuff, I got one that I'll show here at the end of the stream. I love somebody hit it on the head, by the way. Lawn, the Miami Vice type like style to your videos. And I was like, yeah, that's what he was going for.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's actually probably not the clips you got. Maybe I'll give you one for next week. Was directly inspired by Miami Vice. So I'll provide that next week for you to share.
Oh, it's because I turned off the chat bot. Hold on. Here's his YouTube. Make sure you guys go subscribe to this man. Subbing on YouTube is free. It costs you nothing. Go sub to this man real quick. Show him some love. And I will see you guys in about an hour. I'm not sure, Poseidon. It all depends on the assets too.
Don't panic. My frags are organic.
A lot of the maps in PR had like jets and attack helicopters and stuff like that.
Welcome to the Frag Shack.
So it all depends on the vehicle assets that they have in the game. That's why I said Mutra City would be a really good map for them to add to squad, because it has everything already in squad that's needed for that particular map. So yeah, no worries, Poseidon. Much love, brother. Yeah, it's been a great talk, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming. And stick around and check out this this video here from Lawn Darts. Lawn, I will talk to you here in just a few minutes after I get back and let this outro play. Love you guys to death.
Panic. As always, been a pleasure.
It was awesome, dude. This was a great one today. I will see you guys all in an hour. Much love, friends. Lawn, I'll see you here in just a couple minutes. Guys, go throw a sub to him. Like I said, on YouTube, it's free. It doesn't cost you any money to sub on YouTube. Show this man some love. Check out this video and let me know what you guys think. I'll be right back.
Maybe it's a new beginning. Maybe it's the start of where it ends. I know. It comes down to all or nothing. This time is for real, we can't pretend. You know, they're closing in, and I don't wanna miss a shot. Adrenaline, so give it everything that you got. Don't stop. In your eyes, I see a fire lighting up as we're getting away. There's no going back, and I'm loving the chase. Where you go, I follow. When I'm giving up, never hitting the brakes. There's no going back, and I'm loving the chase. When I'm giving up, never hitting the brakes. There's no going back, and I'm loving the chase. I can hear my every heartbeat. I can feel the blood rush through my veins. You know. Somewhere in the distance, the sun's coming up. Everything is blurry, the trees flashing by my side. We're far ahead. The horizon never seems so close. The sky is red. We're not out of the woods yet, you know. Don't stop.
It is, with a great deal of national bias, my absolute pleasure to introduce the HK417, the designated marksman rifle of the Australian Defence Force. Designed and developed by Heckler & Co. in the 1990s, it entered service in 2005. In 2010, the Australian Defence Force procured $1.6 million worth of HK417 rifles. The variant used by the Australian marksmen in squad is the 16-inch Recon variant. Other variants available had a 12-inch and 20-inch barrel, all of which were user-changeable in the field. The HK417 is a gas-operated, modular-design selective fire weapon, using a short-stroke gas piston located above the barrel that operates the 7-lug rotating bolt, which sits in a bolt carrier and operates in a forged alloy receiver resembling those of the Stoner-designed AR-10, AR-15 and M16 rifles. Its internal design is almost the same as the smaller NATO caliber HK416, although the receiver and working parts are enlarged to suit the 7.62 by 51mm cartridge. The early HK417 prototype used 20-round magazines from the G3 rifle family, which did not feature a bolt hold open device. Later prototypes, however, switched to a polymer magazine with bolt hold open. In squad, it comes with a 20-round detachable box magazine. Due to its long range and good accuracy, the HK417 fits well into the designated marksman role and comes with the same Trigicon 6X ACOG in use on the L129A1 sharpshooter rifle. Fitted with 4 Picatinny rails on a free-float handguard as standard. In squad, this battle rifle features a bipod and foregrip, and although not implemented, it is interesting to note it also can accept a modified 40mm grenade launcher clamped directly to the bottom rail. The HK417 was introduced in the version 2.15 update of Squad, and while I rarely play marksman, this weapon is a personal favourite. Share this video with other players who you meet who are new to this game so they can also squad better.
All right, boys. Dub, thank you for the 4 months, brother. That is going to conclude this episode of Squadcast, boys. Thank you so much for coming through, boys and girls. I appreciate it. Love you guys to death. I'll see you in approximately 1 hour for the normal stream. If you guys are new, I hope you enjoyed the content. If you're new to Squad, I hope you find the stream educational. And hope I've earned your follow by the end of the stream. I'll see you guys on the next one. Much love, guys. I'll see you guys in about an hour for the normal stream. We'll play thank you, Sorrow. I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words, everybody. We'll play the Black Coast AAS and we'll do some sub pens action for sure. Hell yeah, brother. All right, boys. Love you guys to death. See you in an hour. Peace.